In the early 14th century, the Indian subcontinent was fracturing. The Delhi Sultanate pushed aggressively southward, applying immense military pressure to the Deccan borders. Under this constant onslaught, older Hindu states like the Yadavas and Kakatiyas collapsed. Their territories shattered, leaving behind a massive, chaotic power vacuum across southern India. Out of that chaos, a new power emerged on the rocky banks of the Tungabhadra River. In 1336 CE, two brothers, Harihara I and Bukaraya I, founded the Vijayanagara Empire. These brothers established the Sangama dynasty, and from the start, they were constructing a highly militarized state designed specifically to halt those northern invasions. To understand the massive scale of their military engineering, we can look at the records of Abdur Razzaq, a Persian envoy who visited the capital a century later. Razzaq wrote with awe about what he saw. These walls encircled the urban core, along with vast tracts of agricultural land, forests, and irrigation channels. By trapping their food supply inside their defenses, the Sangama founders engineered a self-sustaining fortress. They built a capital that could close its gates and wait out an indefinite siege, acting as a physical and cultural barrier for the south. The Sangama era centers on founders Harihara and Buka, defined by the massive seven-tiered defensive architecture documented by Abdur Razzaq. The Sangama rulers eventually gave way to the brief, unstable Saluva dynasty, which was quickly replaced by a new ruling family, the Tuluva dynasty. It was under the Tuluvas that the empire reached its peak, driven by its most powerful ruler, Krishnadeva Raya. His reign was defined by a perpetual, bloody struggle against the neighboring Deccan sultanates. They were fighting for control over the Raichur Doab, a fertile and strategic strip of land sitting right between the Krishna and Tungabhadra rivers. To break the deadlock, Krishnadeva Raya signed a treaty with the Portuguese. By monopolizing the trade of Arabian war horses, he effectively cut off the supply of elite cavalry to his rivals in Bijapur. The internal mechanism keeping the army functioning was the Nayankara System. The king delegated authority to military governors, or Nayakas. In exchange, he granted them land called Amaram. Nayakas managed this land, maintained local troops, and remitted 1/6 of revenue to the treasury. This stone aqueduct leading into the royal center represents the massive, state-sponsored agricultural infrastructure, like the Hiriya Canal, that funded the empire's military engine. The Portuguese traveler Domingo Paes visited during this time and noted that immense artificial lakes and reservoirs watered so much land they drove the price of abundant crops down to near nothing in the local markets. With the economy booming, Krishnadeva Raya poured resources into culture. He was a celebrated poet himself, authoring the Telugu masterpiece Amuktam Malyata, and he sponsored a group of 8 scholars in his court, known as the Ashtadigajas. This wealth also paid for the pinnacle of Vijayanagara architecture. Structures like the Vitala Swami Temple combined earlier southern styles into intricate designs, famous for their carved stone chariots and musical pillars. While society was deeply stratified by caste and occupation, Fernão Nunes, another Portuguese chronicler, observed specific roles for women. He noted that women served inside the royal court as expert accountants, as skilled astrologers, and even trained wrestlers. By leveraging the Nayankara revenue engine and international trade, Krishnadeva Raya funded a highly organized, prosperous society that allowed art, literature, and complex architecture to flourish. This Tuluva peak relied on the Amaram land grants of the Nayankara system, as detailed in the accounts of Paes and Nunes. Following Krishnadeva Raya's death in 1529, the central authority fractured. Rebellious military chiefs disrupted the state until the final ruling lineage, the Aravidu dynasty, took control. Under the Aravidu, the chief minister Rama Raya implemented a risky diplomatic strategy. He actively tried to play the various Deccan sultanates off against one another, intervening in their succession disputes to keep them weak and divided. The plan backfired. Realizing they were being manipulated, the historically fractured sultanates of Bijapur, Ahmednagar, and Golconda put aside their differences and combined forces. This massive alliance met the southern army at the Battle of Talikota in 1565. The Vijayanagara forces relied heavily on vast numbers of war elephants, which proved disastrous against the Sultanate's combination of fast Persian cavalry and advanced long-range artillery. The southern army was utterly routed. The victorious Sultanate forces marched directly into the capital, Hampi. They sacked the city over several months, systematically destroying its temples and infrastructure until it was abandoned. The empire began a steady fade. The surviving Aravidu rulers retreated eastward, struggling to maintain their hold over a shrinking territory until the kingdom finally dissolved around 1646. Yet, looking back at the ruins, the empire's historical function is clear. For over 300 years, Vijayanagara successfully functioned as a physical shield. It held the line, preserving southern architectural traditions and incubating the Bhakti devotional movement from northern expansion. The four dynasties, Sangama, Saluva, Tuluva, and Aravidu, represent a 300-year arc, with the Battle of Talikota in 1565 marking the fatal